What's going on YouTube? Welcome to episode 182 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zero Elite and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And don't forget to join the Discord. I'll have a link in the description below. Today we're going to be getting some more detailing done in on our exterior of the ship. And then I believe we're actually going to be moving into the interior so that we can start working on our park, which will be a lot of fun. So without further ado, let's kick back, relax, and jump right into this. So the first thing that we're going to be doing today is trying to bring out just a little bit more detail out of our bridge, specifically on the outside. And for our detailing today on the outside of the ship, the white concrete block again is going to be our friend. This is just compared to the quartz. This is going to be a very subtle color that we can add in to add just a little bit more definition, but it's also not super overpowering. And if you don't see what I mean by that, what I want you to do, change this color out for a darker color, like a dark gray or black, and you'll see exactly what I mean. Like, do half of it in this white concrete and then do the other half in that darker gray or black, and you'll really get an idea of what I mean. Why it's so important sometimes, to really um, think about where you want what not only where you want to have your pinstriping, but the colors in which to use them, because um, using those darker tones, I mean, it can totally change the look of the ship. Now, don't get me wrong. We've got those darker colors. As you can see, we've got the darker gray here, which doesn't look bad, but having that everywhere, it would totally change the look of the ship. So it's good to have just a nice combination of the two. Now we're going to try something here. This back window, we're going to try to do the top outline of it in this gray, but I don't think it's going to look right. I think we're actually going to end up reverting back to what we had before we made this change. But it was, honestly, it was worth trying just to see how it would look. Because again, sometimes you don't know if it's going to work unless you try it. And I do think that was worth trying, but I don't know, like there's something about like the way it's outlined now. It doesn't look right to me. And it's not even that the window's getting lost between the gray, like you can still see it. It's just it's almost like it's just too much gray, you know? The white concrete going around here, this looks good. This just gives it a little bit more subtle detailing, but that line going around the window, I'm not feeling that. So we're going to change that back. I can't tell you how many times I'll change something in a certain area, which you guys have seen during the course of this tutorial. I can't help it. It's the Gemini in me changing my mind. But, I think that sometimes that trying different things, it's vital. And you can see this is a different way of doing it where I just added the blocks on top of the windows, and that doesn't really work all that well either, not at least in that color. We could try it in the white, but I think that it wouldn't, I don't think it would look as good. You see, we're just zooming out, looking at the bridge from different angles, seeing if there's anything else I want to do. I still like this black strip that we had in the front, right in front of the bridge. I know it's not canon, but that was one thing on the bridge I thought I was missing something and it needed it. And I think that it works a heck of a lot better now. Yeah, see, and like this is one of the reasons why we didn't add more hull lines on the saucer. I mean, we've got a lot. It doesn't seem like it, but when you start adding in all these details, we've got a lot going on the saucer. It is quite detailed, even though it doesn't look like it in some areas. It really is. And now I've got to get yellow so I can fix the registration in front of the primary shuttle bay. There we go. That looks good. And we've tried that line in a darker color, and I don't think it necessarily worked. I think that lighter shade, um, I think that works out pretty good. I mean, if you really, really wanted to, you could, I guess, in a sense, match that gray that we're using for the outline of it for the top and have that go along the bottom too. But I think we tried that, and I think it was too much if I'm not mistaken. But, to each his own. If you think that looks better, I say go for it. At the end of the day, these tutorials are really just a guide to give you an idea on what you could do with your own build. So I'm not, stressing that you have to copy these 100%. Even if you just want to look at it for loose reference, go for it. But I try to give as much as I can in these tutorials and just go over everything because you never know what people might be having problems with. Um, so I try to just go over my entire process as much as I can. Um, and I think it's been working out pretty good so far. Now, what I'm adding in right now is these three strips that are on the front of the engines, um, but they kind of dip down. And I think we tried to do that with half slabs going down a line and it didn't really work all that well. So I'm trying that with the white um, concrete, and that doesn't look too bad. The only problem with it again is that as we zoom out, we'll lose that detailing, but at least the line is there. Man, I love how those engines came out. They look pretty clean. All right, we are in pretty good shape so far. Wasn't a super long episode today. I think we're only at like 16 minutes originally, but we've got another 8 minutes to go. Now we're going to be moving on to the saucer section. We're on the entertainment deck. You can see this is right where our Ambo Jiu-Jitsu ring is. So we can't really build that right here. This will be on the end. That'll be like a formal theater where the crew can come and play instruments for fellow crew members and whatnot. So maybe if we hit the opposite end, I think that was the left side, so we're going to mosey on over to the right side. Yeah, we've got a nice, decent amount of space over here. We haven't moved anything or haven't used anything over here. This is something I've tried to do with not every room on the Enterprise D, but some of them where I've had the opportunity to kind of just add to it. I've tried to make these a little bit more grandiose in scale rooms. because it just makes sense to me. You've got a ship this big. It doesn't make much sense to have a lot of small rooms on a Galaxy class ship. The reality of it is that they just didn't have the budget to do all that. So, I mean, for the purpose of the build, where we can add in some of these over-the-top rooms, I think that's going to make a huge difference because it's going to help us to sell the scale of the ship. And it's actually, it's crazy when you think about this that my Enterprise D is half the size of a full-scale Galaxy class. It's got half the decks because I think I'm at 22 or 23, and the real Galaxy class, if I'm not mistaken, is at 44 decks. So that gives you an idea of the sheer scale of one of these things. And having a bunch of tiny rooms, it just doesn't make a lot of sense in some cases, you know. You want to have those big over the top rooms to definitely sell the scale of it, at least from a builder's perspective. And we're gonna do that with the park here, because we had made our farm and it had like a little tiny park to the left of it, which you could almost say is like maybe like a test park to see how to give us some ideas on some other things that we could do. Um, I think that when you break it down, this room that we're making is going to be for the people that don't care for going on a holodeck, or they don't get anything out of a holodeck where they see a computer generated image. They want to see the real thing. So to me, these would be people that they miss being on an Earth-like planet, and they want to go through a stroll in a real park. So with that being said, we're going to try to make something to try to accommodate that. So trying to have maybe like a blue sky ceiling, some more trees, um, maybe even like a waterfall or something like that. Some stuff that you definitely would see if you're on um, Earth, for example. So this wall that we're putting up, we're doing on the left and right side because I figured that we can kind of make this room pretty big so we'll have like an actual area that you can go through on a stroll through. Because one of the times, I don't know if they've mentioned the park multiple times on Next Generation, but I do know that one of the times that the park was mentioned was when Barclay mustered up the courage to ask out Deanna Troi to go for a walk with him through the park. Um, but I don't think they ever showed it. I could be wrong, um, but I'm pretty certain that they didn't because I recall when I was getting ready to prep this room out, I had, you know, I did my research to prep out the rooms, see what type of detailing I needed to do. And unfortunately, I couldn't find anything for it. So I had just to completely wing this room. So to my knowledge, this was one of just the many rooms that we never got a chance to see. But one of the really cool things about that is that this is going to be an area that's going to be open for interpretation. So you can get away with doing whatever you want, and nobody's going to be able to bat an eye at it. Nobody's going to be able to say that's not canon. Well, they never developed it, so you can't say that it isn't. So it's kind of how I look at it. And it's funny, I don't really get too many people like that anymore. When I first started my YouTube channel, I did have quite a few that they didn't like some of the added rooms that I put in because just for that same argument that, oh, it wasn't on the show. But I mean, when you're trying to build out something that feels like a fleshed out interior, like there's just no way of getting around it. You're going to be forced with coming up with your own spins on sections of the ship based on what you think it would look like. And I mean, that's really the only thing that you can do. I mean, you can try to borrow from other ships to kind of, cross, um, uh, interfuse those rooms into other ships because it would make sense. They might look similar when you go ship to ship. But maybe sometimes they might look really different too. But at the end of the day, there's really no way to know. Um, all right, so you can see we've got all our flooring. We did that in grass. Looking pretty good here. You can see my wall here. I'm going with the cut line of my corridors, my circular corridors here. Because we're not just going to do a straight wall going up, because the ceiling will be massive on this room. We're going to go all the way up to the top. But the way that we'll do that is when we fill this in, we're only going to bring the row up to the current level of the corridor that we're on, as an example. Like, as we fill it in, you'll see what I mean with that. Like, it's going to transition kind of inward, the wall, towards the corridor, so it'll kind of have like a nice curve on it, and it won't just be, you know, a plain flat wall. At least that's kind of what I'm going for at this point. Yeah, so we go right up to the cut line and then we stop. See, not super difficult. We're using the space that we have available to us to help us to dictate how this room is going to turn out. This is something you can totally get away with. I do this all the time when I do my builds because sometimes I just can't decide the shape of it. But when you really think about it, the way that these ships are designed, it's almost, if you put your corridors down close to correct, how they're supposed to be, the ship is divided up for you. You know, so you really don't have to work all that hard to kind of shape a room together. Sometimes you do. I mean, if you're working like a really small room, like when we did the transporter room on the Enterprise D as an example, I think that would be a great um, example of the contrast between shaping a room completely yourself and then doing that based off of the area in which you have to work with. And that will be more this case when we go in, and it'll be the same thing on this side, but you can kind of imagine how this is going to go because we kind of finished it right here. We just have to bring that going all the way down now and fill all that in. But I think it's going to look good. It's not going to, the room doesn't look super massive now, but when we actually walk into it, when it's more filled in, it'll look good. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap us up today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. If you did enjoy this content, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button, helping me and supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. New subscribers, don't forget to hit that notification on and hit the bell so you just get notified when my new videos drop. And speaking of new videos, you can always catch my new Minecraft episodes dropping Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. If you have any questions regarding today's episode, be sure to drop a comment or in Discord. Definitely love hearing from everybody. And yeah, I think that's going to do it. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in. And I hope everybody has a happy and safe weekend. And of course, what did you make in Minecraft today? Post your pictures in Discord. I want to see them.